sounds, buddy. And Rouser Radio from Lewis, UK. And a special good morning to those people in Lewis, Delaware, who are only just going to bed as we're getting up. And the people of the village of Thurle in East Sussex, where we were filming yesterday. Lovely village. Good morning, Keith Hayes with Rouser Radio from Lewis, East Sussex, the county town of East Sussex, a very historic place where we have done our fair share towards getting democracy going. Perhaps not quite as we know it today, and I'm not sure about democracy today anyway, but in 1268, the Battle of Lewis, which is generally credited with showing the first spark of English democracy, when the barons defeated King Henry III and said, "We want a share in the say of how you're spending our taxes, mate, because you seem to be spending them willy-nilly and having a jolly good time and lovely parties on our money." Where have you heard that before? Anyway, they took on the king here in Lewis, beat him, and the very next day the first parliament of some sort met in Westminster, where it is located today. So there you are, that's number one. Number two is dear old Tom Paine. Now, people in the United States get very upset when most people in the United Kingdom have no idea who Tom Paine is. Tom Paine was a philosopher adventurer of the 18th century, early 19th century, who wrote The Rights of Man, who coined the phrase the House of Commons, who coined the phrase the United States. He left Britain, where he felt that the divine right of kings, which still existed, was rather concentrating the power in the hands of a small minority, in fact almost still the king, and he wrote nasty pamphlets. No, they weren't nasty, they were just anti-monarchist. And for his trouble, he was charged with treason. But he went off to the United States, helped the colonists kick the War of Independence into action, and as a consequence, that was another feature that emanated from Lewis. The third issue was that 17 Protestants, 17 people who refused to return to Roman Catholicism in the 16th century, were burned at the stake in the centre of Lewis by Queen Mary I. That's where the term Bloody Mary comes from. And even though I like the drink, I'm not sure that I've liked the lady. She was very determined, after Henry VIII had broken with Rome, to return the Roman religion to Britain, and at no expense to human kindness or safety or whatever. So she just burned willy-nilly those who stood against her. And 17 so-called martyrs were burned right in the centre of Lewis. You can still see the exact spot. You can see the steps of the cell where they were kept, where they marched up to their death and burned, as I understand it, in tar barrels. Particularly nasty way to die, but they did, 17 of them, and as a consequence, once more, in this small town of Lewis, 17,000 people, the sparks of descent of democracy, of be careful how far you bully us, people in control, people in authority, because we'll only stand for so much. And perhaps we're getting to that stage after a virus easing, where we as a people are saying, enough, leaders. You've been stuffing your pockets at our expense for quite some time, and if you think you're going to do it now as an easy way out of how you handle this whole virus thing, is forget it. We're not into the old style. There are going to be changes, and we expect those changes to come from you because we pressure you and we've shown what we wanted. Having said that, there is a whole generation that seem to have no responsibility whatsoever. The statistics show that there is a little spike in I can never know whether it's COVID or COVID or whatever. So let's say the coronavirus. I think it's a much nicer name anyway. Although, do we need a nice name for a nasty thing? Going into the pub and having parties and so on is just causing problems again. And several pubs have had to, after opening, closing again. People are still rushing to the beaches and not only leaving their garbage behind, but also leaving infection behind. So unless we, the people, can show some common sense and unity, I guess our leaders have got us by the nose. Nice ring in the nose, and they can lead us wherever they want, at all levels. I get particularly upset when it's done at a local level, but I don't like to see it at a national level either, because ultimately that's where stuff comes from. Ooh, a lovely rant to start the day. Well, I'm not sure about the virus. There are lots of articles about it. It would seem that throughout the world, people haven't been exactly playing by the rules. Social distancing is disappearing, and particularly the statistics show from people who are drunk. I suppose the immortality of youth, when you've had a few drinks, comes shining through. It's not going to happen to us, Gov. And so they ignore all the rules, ponce around, do all sorts of things they shouldn't, and pass on the infection. So we're not out of the woods yet. And we, the people, are not behaving in a particularly auspicious way. In fact, what we're making us damn fools of ourselves. And as a species, we've come very close to wrecking the world. As a species, now we're showing just how irresponsible we can be and how silly we can be. Oh, you old curmudgeon, you old curmudgeon. Yeah, but some of these things have to be said, and I'm getting a bit upset too about headlines. I've been a journalist all my life, broadcast journalist, text journalist, you name it. I've been there. One of the things that I've especially not done is used name-calling and the use of words that are offensive as a major story. It's all a bit silly. But modern journalism seems to pick up on the Prime Minister said this and refuses to apologise. So-and-so said this. The leader of the opposition said that and refuses to apologise. What a bunch of nonsense. So if in fact we are guilty of anything, is reporting the wrong stories. What we mean to do is report on some of the actions and some of the naughties that are going on much more deeply than we do. If somebody is going to try and kill me by spreading the virus, I want to know about it. I want to know the in-depth story. I'd like to know why. I actually taught, I consulted on media in the Balkans, in several of the Balkan countries. And one of the things I always taught them as journalists was ask why, because it's a forgotten word. Everybody wanted to be an investigative journalist, but just as an ordinary journalist, they never asked why. So let's start asking our journalists here to ask why certain things happen, because it's a key question. It's a key question. Why are people doing things? Now, I ask you every morning to experiment with me with pieces of music that I haven't listened to, and I assault you with just to see what they're like. So this morning I got one called Hulu Ukulele. I haven't heard it. Let's listen to it together and let's see whether it's good fun or whether it gets the thumbs down. Yes, I quite like that. I give it an 8 out of 10. Never reached the top 10, of course, but nonetheless, I think that that's rather a pretty little piece. Rather nice, and it's Hulu Ukulele, if you're looking for it. Hulu Ukulele. I like that very much. Anyway, I mentioned that we were filming in the village of Firle yesterday, and the village of Firle in East Sussex is a very interesting village. First of all, it's a tied village. It's owned by Lord Gage and the estate, which actually covers about 7,000 or 8,000 acres, and he also, quote, owns several other villages and various mansions and castles and things within that